Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'll show you guys how I made this beautiful pinafore dress. If it's something you are interested in, please keep on watching and let's get started. So I'm going to be drafting this pattern on my pattern paper, and the first thing I'll do is to draw about 1 inch on my paper. This will serve as a guide for my shoulder. So next I'll measure my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which is 8 inches. Then I'll come down by 1 inch. So you can reduce yours by about 1 inch if you don't want it to be the shoulder to be very wide like that. But me, I'm just going to use my actual shoulder measurement, and that will also include my allowance. So next I'll mark 3 inches for my neck width, and I'll simply connect it to my shoulder slope. So right now I'll come down by about 8 inches for my neck depth. This is how low I want the neck to be. Then I'll simply connect it to my neck width like so. So the next measurement I'll take right now is my shoulder to my bust point, which is about 10 inches. Then I'll go ahead and take my shoulder to my waist, which is about 16 inches. So if you're using a band for your dress, you can reduce it by about 1.5 inches. That will be 14.5. But if you are not, just leave it at 16 inches. Then I'm simply going to connect like this. So right now I'm just going to label the lines. That's my bust and my waist. So on my bust point, I'll divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2, and whatever it gives me, I'll just add 1 inch to it. So my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 is 4, and I'll add 1 inch to it to make it 5. Then on my waist, I'm just going to remove 1 inch from that 5 inches. That will make it 4 inches. So I'm just going to mark that on my waist, and I'll simply connect. So all I did on my waist was just to remove 1 inch from the bust point, and I'll add it to the waist. Then I'll also connect my shoulder straight to my bust point like this. So my shoulder, I'm just going to add half an inch for my allowance, and I'll simply connect it. So I'm done drafting the front pattern. I'm just going to cut it out now. I'm just going to label this in my front pattern. Now for the back, I'm also going to draw 1 inch at the top of my paper. Then next, I'll mark 1 inch for my zip allowance by the side of the paper, because this pinafore is going to have a zip. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch for my zip allowance, and I'll connect. So right now, I'm just going to label it. So I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2, which is 8 inches. Then I'll mark my neck width of 3 inches, the same neck width I use at the front. I'll mark it. Then I'll come down by 1 inch. This will be the neck depth for the back. Then I'll simply connect it like this. Then I'll come down by 1 inch on my shoulder for my shoulder slope. I'll just connect like this. Then I'll mark my shoulder to my bust the same way I did at the front. I'll mark my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. Then I'll also mark my shoulder to my waist, which is 16 inches. And I'll simply connect. Right now, I'm going to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2, which is 4 inches, and I'll add 1 inch for allowance. Then at the waist, I'm going to take the same measurement I took on my bust point. I'll take it at the waist. This is because I don't want it to be too narrow like it is at the front. So I'm just going to connect it with my ruler like this. So I'm going to use my curve to connect the neck of the back like this. Then I'm going to add half an inch for my allowance on the shoulder also, the same way I did at the front. I'm just going to connect it like this. And I'll label it. So right now I'm just going to cut it out. Remember, I'm cutting it with the zip allowance. So this is the front and back pattern, and I'll just go ahead and cut it on my material. So before cutting, remember I said I'll be using a band for this dress. So right now I'm just going to remove 1.5 inches because the band will be about 1.5, so I'm going to remove the 1.5 inches. I'm going to do that at the front and at the back. So I'm just going to connect like this. I'm going to do that also at the front. I'm just going to remove 1.5 inches like this. And I'll connect. So right now I'm just going to cut it out. So for the skirt pattern, I already drafted my skirt and I'm not going to go over to the skirt pattern again. I'll simply drop a link in the description below so that you guys can check it out to know how to draft a basic skirt pattern. So I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm not going to draft the skirt pattern. So I'll just simply cut my skirt on this material. I'm going to be using this beautiful Adire material. So I'll fold my material into 2 before cutting. As you can see, I folded it into 2. So I'll place my pattern paper on it like this before cutting it out. And before cutting, make sure your pattern paper is properly laid on the material so it doesn't shift. So right now, I'll go ahead and cut it out. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe. You can also like and share the video, and you can turn on your notification bell so that anytime I post a video, you can see it very easily. Thank you. So I'm done cutting and I'll simply divide it into 2. Remember, this is the back pattern, not the front, so you don't get confused and go and cut the front. This is because of the zipper allowance. That's why I'm dividing it into 2 like this. So I'll also go ahead and cut my front pattern. So for the top part of this dress, I'm just going to fold my material into 2 also like this. And I'll place the pattern paper on it. I'll place the middle on it like this. Please don't make any mistakes. See what I'm doing? I just placed it on it like this. I'll hold it down and simply cut it out. Yeah, I'm done cutting it, and this is what the front looks like. So right now I'll go ahead and cut the back, and I'll also fold my material into two like this. And this time around, because there'll be an opening at the back, it doesn't matter how you place your pattern paper on the material. It doesn't matter the side you put on it, you place on it, sorry. So you're just going to cut it out like this. So this is the back pattern. You're going to have two pieces of it. This is what it looks like. So I already cut out the lining for the front and for the back, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the neck. I'll just take it to my machine now, and I'll go ahead and stitch it. So right now I'm done stitching, and I will simply use my scissors to notch the neck part. I'm just going to notch it like this. Please be careful when you're notching so that you don't cut through the thread. So I'm just going to carefully notch around the neck like this. This is to enable me top stitch on the lining, and so that it will come out very neat. That's why I'm top stitching. I'm going to do that also for the neck at the back. So right now I'll go ahead and open my material like this, and I'll run a stitch through the lining, on top of the lining like this. I'll just run a stitch around it. I'll do the same thing at the back. So now that I'm done top stitching, this is what it looks like, as you can see. So I'll just go ahead and iron it, and for the back I'll simply fold the back like this and run a stitch on it. I'm going to do it on both sides. I'll just fold it a little bit and I'll run a stitch on it like this. So right now I'm just going to bring out that side of the back that I folded in. That's the side of my zipper allowance. I'll just bring it out like this. Just fold it. Sorry, my camera is not capturing it very well. I'll just fold it and bring it out. So I just went ahead to iron it, and this is what the front and the back looks like after ironing. So I'll just trim the excess lining away. I'll just trim it out, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to attach both shoulders together. That is the shoulder for the front and for the back. And watch how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to place both shoulders, that's the front shoulder and the back shoulder, on top of each other like this. That's lining facing each other and material facing each other. Please watch how I'm doing it. I'm just going to place them on top of each other like this, and I will run a stitch on both of them like this. So before stitching, I used my pin to hold it down like this so it doesn't shift. So now I'll run a stitch on it. So this is what it looks like after sewing it. As you can see, this is what it looks like. So this is what the front side of it looks like, and right now I'm going to sew the sides of this material, and please watch what I'm going to do because it's a little bit confusing. I'll just place this side of the material inside like this, then I'll take the lining of the other side and the material and I'll fold it in like this. I hope you got that. If you did not get it, please replay the video. I'm going to do it again. So I'm just going to let's say this is the material and the lining. So one side of it, I'll just open it like this. I'll open one side like this. I'll open it like this, and I'll carry the whole side of the other side. Everything, I'll just carry it. I'll put it inside. Then I'll use my lining. I'll fold it on top of the actual material like this, and I'll run the stitch through it. I'm just going to use my pin to hold that down. Please, if you are confused, just pause the video and replay it. It's actually very simple, but it can be a little bit confusing if you've not done it before. So I'm just going to use my pin to hold it down like this. So I used my pin to hold everything down like this. So right now I stitched it already, and I'll just bring it out. I'll turn it to the other side. And this is what it looks like. So for this other side also, I'll just open my material like this. Remember, I've stitched the first side, so I'll do the same thing I did for the first side. I'll do it at the second side. I'll open the lining and the material like this. Then I'll carry that stitched side, I'll put it inside, I'll put it in between the material and the lining, and I'll place the material and the lining on top of each other like this. Sorry, that side of the video didn't show, but all I did was just make sure the other part is tucked inside properly so you don't mistakenly stitch on top of it. So it's the material and lining that will be placed on top of each other like this, while the other one will be in the middle. So I'll just use my pin to hold it down. And make sure the middle of the material and the middle of the lining aligns with each other so that there won't be any mistake and it won't shift. You can actually start from the middle. So I'll just go ahead and run a stitch on it like this. So I'm done sewing it, and all I need to do is just bring it out like this. I'll just turn it over to the other side gently. And this is what it looks like. Can you see how both sides look now? So I went ahead to iron it, and this is what it looks like after ironing. Can you see how beautiful and neat it looks? This is what it looks like. So we are done with the top part of this pinafore dress, and right now we will go ahead to attach the lining to the skirt part. So I already cut out my lining for the skirt, and I'll be using half lining for it. I'm not going to be using a full lining. So you can remove about 10 inches from the actual skirt measurement for the lining. So right now I have stitched my lining on my material, and what I did was to place the lining on the right side of the material before stitching it. Then I'll turn it over like this, and this is what it looks like. And I did the same thing for the back also. So I'll just go ahead and iron it. So after ironing, I went ahead to attach the back of my skirt together. That's the zipper allowance. I just stitched it all the way to the down part of it. And I used about 1 inch since that's the allowance I left. So the next thing I'll do now is to take my dart measurement, and I'll start from that my zipper allowance that I left. I'll divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2 to give me 4 inches, and I'll come down by 5 inches from that 4 inches. This would be my dart, and I'll simply connect. Then I'll take half an inch on both sides. Then I'll simply connect like this. So I'll do that at the other side also. Then for the front, I'll also divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2, and I'll mark it on the skirt like this. Remember, I folded my skirt into 2. Then I'll come down and I'll mark 4.5 inches. Actually supposed to be 4 inches, but I added half an inch for the allowance for the skirt. Remember, I'm going to attach the skirt to the top part of the pinafore. So I'm simply going to connect it like this. Then I'll take half an inch on both sides. Then I'll just connect. So I've gone ahead to sew my dart at the front and at the back, and this is what it looks like. So right now I'll go ahead and attach the front and the back of the skirt together. So after stitching by the sides, I went ahead to open the zipper part of the skirt. I just opened it up like this. Then I pressed down the extra allowance I have inside the skirt. I just ironed it a little bit. Then right now I'm going to take the entire waist measurement of the skirt. I'm going to take it right from the zipper allowance all the way to the other edge of the skirt. I'm about to cut the band for this skirt, and I'll just take the entire measurement for it. So right now I'm going to cut out the band for this skirt, and I'll simply fold my material into 2 like this. Then I'll measure about 2.5 inches. So the actual measurement of the band I want to use 2 inches, but I added half an inch for the allowance. Then I'll take the measurement I took around my waist, around the skirt waist. I'll take it, which is inclusive of the zipper allowance. So I'll just measure it properly, and I'll cut it out. And remember, I folded my material into 2. We're going to be needing 2 pieces of this band for the skirt. So right now I'll simply cut it out. And this is the band for the skirt. So I'm going to be using a paper stay for the band, so that it gives it some kind of form, like it makes it a little bit hard. So I'll iron the paper stay on it. So I'll iron the side that has the gum on the wrong side of the band. If you don't have a paper stay, you can as well just leave it like that. So I'll just iron my stay on it. So after ironing, this is what it looks like, and I'll simply divide the band into two. Remember I said we are going to be using two bands for it, so I'm just going to cut it into two. So after cutting it into two, this is what I have, and I'll simply place the bands on top of each other like this. And I'll fold them into two like this. I want to make a notch in the middle. So after folding them into two, I'll come to the middle and I'll make a notch at the top like this. So right now I'll fold the skirt into two like this, right from the middle. I'll fold it like this, then I'll notch the middle like this. Sorry, my camera didn't capture it, but I just folded it into two, edge to edge, and I notched it. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the top of this pinafore. I'll just fold it into two like this, and I'll make a notch at the front part. So for the next step, I'm going to attach the band to the top of the pinafore, and watch how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to place this part that I notched on the top of the dress. I'm going to place it on one side of the notched part of my band. Then I'll take this back part, the zipper allowance part. I'm just going to place it at the edge of the belt like this. Please watch how I'm doing it. If you don't understand, you can replay the video. So I'm just going to place them like this. Then I'll take the second belt. I'll place the right side on top of all the pinafore. Let me repeat it again. So this is the belt. This is the first belt. It's facing the right side. I'll take the right side of the top of the pinafore. I'll place the notched part of it on the notched part of the first belt like this. Then I'll use my pin to hold it down. Let me just use my pin to hold it down so it doesn't shift. Then I'll take the back of the pinafore, that's the zipper allowance part, the edge. I'll place the edge on the side of the belt like this. I'll use my pin to also hold it down. Then I'll place the other side also like this. I'll use my pin to hold that side down also. Remember, the right side of the top is facing the right side of the band. So I'll place my belt. I'll place the right side of the second belt from the notched part. I'll place it on it like this. So I'll use the pin I used to hold the first belt, then I'll just bring it out and I'll use it to hold the second belt. So I'm just going to pin everything down like this, and I'll run a stitch through it. I'm just going to pin everything down. So after pinning it down, I'll just stitch on top. So this is what it looks like after stitching it. This is exactly what it looks like. So I'll just go ahead and iron it properly. So after ironing it, I'm going to go ahead and attach the skirt part of this dress to the band, and I'll just open up my band like this. Then this notched part of the skirt, remember I notched the middle of the skirt the same way I notched the middle of the band. Then I'll place the back of the skirt, that's the lining part of the skirt. I'll place it on the notched parts like this. Then I'll pin it down like this. Just pin it all the way. Then I'll just attach it together. I'll just go to my sewing machine and attach it together like this. So this is what it looks like after sewing it. This is what it looks like. Then I'll take the other side like this. I'll fold about ½ inch inside. I'll just fold ½ an inch inside like this. So after folding, I just went ahead to iron it so that it can be easy for me to sew on top of it. So I just went ahead to iron it. And after ironing, I just went ahead to sew on top of it, and this is what it looks like on the inside. Can you see how neat it looks, both inside and outside? So right now I'll go ahead and run a stitch on the hem of the dress. Remember, we've not attached our zipper to the dress, so after running a stitch on it, I'll go ahead and put my zip on the dress. So after hemming the dress, I attached my zip, and this is what it looks like. Can you see how neat it looks? And I left about 5 inches for the slit, since this dress is almost reaching my knee. This is to enable me walk properly. And we're almost done with this tutorial. This is how it looks. I'll just give it a proper ironing. So this is what it looks like after ironing it. You can see how beautiful it looks. And we've come to the end of today's tutorial. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and also turn on the notification bell. You can also like and share the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.